Hi there, welcome back to day 3 of Reading Week. We're here with you all week talking about the skills you need to do well in OET reading. And for those of you who've been with us already this week, you know that we've looked at the reading skills you need to develop for success in OET and in the workplace. And yesterday we had a deep dive into reading part A. The recording of those sessions are now available on both our Facebook and YouTube channels at Official OET. And today is all about reading part B. So thank you to everybody joining me live online from Facebook and YouTube. And if you've already had a go at today's sample test and tried the reading part B, let me know in the chat how many of the questions you think you got right. And if this is the first session that you've managed to join this week and you haven't yet seen the new sample test that we've been discussing, we'll add the link into the chat now while the other candidates are adding their scores. So you can download that test from the link and start looking at the questions. We're going to be going through the answers live during today's sessions. So that's great. Let's see what scores are coming through on chat. We've got a 5 from Ismail. Deepak is saying 6. Rinchen, Diana, Rinchen says 5. Diana says 6. Sahaya and Tarindu are saying 4. So that's great. No, nothing less than 4, some 5s, some 6s coming through. So that's great to see that you're feeling confident about these answers. And I think I'm probably right in saying that reading part B is most candidates' favorite part of the reading test. And during today's session, while we look at each reading part B question and answer in detail, I'm also going to be using, like I did yesterday, statistics and examples of real candidate answers, which were kindly submitted by candidates at the end of last month to show you how you compared against your colleagues. And for answers where a good proportion were choosing the wrong answer, we'll look at why and how you could avoid making those similar mistakes on test day. And don't forget, we have another prize giveaway thanks to our friends at Cambridge University Press and Assessment, who have given us 2 copies of their new book, OET Trainer, to give away each day. We'll be holding the giveaway at the end of today's session, and all of the questions will be about reading part B. So make sure you pay attention to be in with the chance of winning one of those brand new book copies later. Now, first of all, some basic reminders about what's involved in reading part B and some recommended approaches you should take in case this is the first time you are hearing about this part of the test. Those of you who do know part B well can help me to complete the gaps that you can see on the screen now. So the first one, nice and easy, we've just been discussing that really. How many questions are there in reading part B? How many questions in reading part B? Yeah, that's great. I can see the answers coming through already. There are 6 questions in reading part B. Now, what do you think about the next gap? What would be a good word to complete the next gap? Each question is about what sort of text? What would be a good word to fit in that gap? Each question is about what kind of text? Good. MM is suggesting short. Anna Maria, healthcare. A few others are suggesting short. Amma is saying short. Pratap has the suggestion of a workplace text. Very nice. The actual word that I was looking for was different. So each question is about a different text. So that means you don't need to answer the previous question correctly to have the same opportunity to get the next question correct. They're all different texts. And what type of texts are you likely to find in reading part B? I've given you a couple of examples, guidelines and protocols, but what other kinds of text do you typically find in reading part B? So I can see Rena is suggesting a memo, Liba is suggesting email, Diana also saying email and memo, that's great. Unati is also suggesting a notice. That's great. Yeah, Loyal World also notice and email. Great. So, yes, there are manuals, memos, notices, emails, and policies, as well as the guidelines and protocols. These are all very typical texts that you find in reading Part B. Now, how many answer options are you choosing from with each of those Part B questions? So there are 6 questions. Each question has how many answer options? Fantastic. I can see the answers coming through straight away. 3 answer options. So 3 choices, A, B, or C for each question. Perfect. And what about the number of words? How long, roughly speaking, are each of those 6 texts? So how many words would you suggest are there in each of those short texts? We've established they're short texts. How many words would you suggest there is in each of those texts? We've got 200 from Sahaya, Unati suggesting 150, 180 from Sulochana, Anna Maria 150. You're in the right sort of ballpark. So each text is roughly 100 to 150 words. So 150 would be the maximum. 100 is the minimum. So roughly 100 to 150 words for each text. And what is the recommendation that we give you at OET for how long you should spend on the Part B questions? So 6 questions. What's the most time we recommend you should spend on Part B questions? So the 6 questions in total. Great. Deepak, I can see, is saying 10 minutes on the questions. Amma also is finding that correct answer. So we recommend you spend no more than 10 minutes in total on reading Part B. So complete those 6 questions in 10 minutes. Part B is included in the 45 minutes with Part C. So you have 45 minutes to answer both Part B and C questions. We recommend spending no more than 10 minutes on reading Part B. And there are a number of different approaches you can take to answering a reading Part B question. And we'll focus on these as we look through the different questions in turn in today's session. But they include paraphrasing the question, reading the question, then the options, then the text, and also choosing the answer by eliminating incorrect options. So let's look at question 1 together. According to the notice, the course is only available to nurses who. Now, in each Part B question, the type of text is mentioned because this is known to unlock information readers hold from previous experience of reading similar text types about what they can expect from reading this particular text. The text type isn't super critical to the question, though. So one strategy that can be helpful with this type of incomplete sentence question is to rephrase it in your own words to something shorter and simpler. Let me show you how. So ignoring the first 4 words, which are about the text type, I can rephrase the rest of the question to which nurses can take this course? And this question, rephrased into your own words, may feel more manageable for you to answer. I haven't changed anything about the question. I've just rephrased it using a WH question word at the beginning into something shorter. Now, all of the candidates who submitted answers in advance got this question correct, and the answer was C. But I want you to tell me why C is incorrect. Why C is correct in the chat. So let me show you the text on the screen. And I want you to look at the text, knowing that C is the correct answer, and tell me where it says it in the text that makes C the correct answer. Which words in the text or which line of the text tell us that C is the correct answer? Let me know in chat when you can find it in the text. Which paragraph? Perhaps that will be easier. Yeah, and I can see Vel, for example, is suggesting in the second paragraph. Um, Pamela is suggesting the last sentence. Chaitana is suggesting the second and third paragraph. So we've got a few different options. Let me show you on the screen where I think it tells you that C is the correct answer. So it says the course is to prepare registered nurses, experienced registered nurses working within emergency, primary care, and walk-in environments. This is a good match for already employed and in a related field. So this is why C is correct. Let's move on now to question 2, which is simply the guideline about breast pumps. Now, this type of very short question, which references only the text type and the topic, indicates you're being asked what the text is about overall. So there's no help here in rephrasing it into different words. You could read the text and get a sense of the text first and then look at the answer options. But here, reading the options first will help you read the text with more comprehension. So let's look at those 3 answer options in turn. All of them are obviously possible in the context of breast pumps. So the strategy here when looking at the answer options is to isolate the keywords that make those 3 options different from each other. And as an example, I think we can isolate the word removal in option A, operating in option B, and unavailability from option C as the main points of difference between the 3 answer options. So looking at text 2 on the screen now, and you can see on the right-hand side those 3 keywords that I've isolated. Scan through the text, keeping those 3 words in your mind, and if you can find the answer, enter it into the chat and also tell me why you think that is the correct answer. So do you think it is A, B, or C? And then tell me why you think that's correct. All right, we've got a couple of suggestions coming through for A. If you're suggesting an answer, also let me know why you think it's the correct answer. Also seeing some answers coming through for B and C. Chaitanya is mentioning they should stay in the allocated ward as evidence. Devadev is suggesting the third line of the text could be reason why A is correct. The second line is also being suggested as where there is evidence for A. So yes, that's right. A is the correct answer. And some of you were adding the reasons that the breast pump should stay on their allocated ward except for when they're being cleaned, and should not be given to parents to take to their own accommodation. This is a good match for removal in A, but let's just check it against the entire answer option. Restricts their removal from the ward. It's all covered by those sentences that we've got on the screen. All of those sentences are about restricting removal of the breast pump. So A is a good choice for our answer. 56% of candidates who submitted their answers in advance chose B, however, provides operating instructions. Now, if you chose B, you might have thought, well, the text is all about where breast pumps are to be used and by whom, but there are no instructions in the text about how to use them. If there was something If B was the correct answer and it was about operating instructions, I would expect to see a numbered list of how to use the breast pump, or perhaps structure words such as first, second, or next. But I can't see any of that. So B is not a good match for this text. A is definitely the correct answer. All right, let's move on to question 3 now. This one caused quite a few problems for candidates who submitted their answers in advance. 64% of candidates who submitted their answers in advance got this question wrong. So let's look at the question first of all. According to the policy, what must the registered nurse do when a patient is discharged? This is already a complete, clear question, but I think it could still be helpful to reduce it down to its key words. So, just what are the really important words that we need to be looking for when reading the text? So, what would you suggest are the key words from this question? Which keywords would you isolate if you were looking at this question? Remember, sort of ignoring the text type is something that you can focus on. So Anna Marie is suggesting what nurse do discharge are keywords. Mahdi is suggesting discharge is a keyword. Ibrahim, what to do after discharge. Yeah, very good. So I would suggest the keywords here are what must RN, I've reduced registered nurse down to RN, do patient discharge. So thinking about those keywords and now looking at the text heading, um, I can see that it says policy heading, discharge policy 4.1.5, registered nurse. So it's clear that the whole of this text is going to focus on the question. So instead of looking through the text and trying to identify what it might be that the answer option is going to match to, I think looking at the answer options in turn and then using those to look at the text is the better strategy here. So let's look at the three answer options. Each answer option is focusing on something quite different. And I think what we can do here is isolate clarity aftercare instructions from option A, liaise health professionals from option B, and easy accessibility to patient data from C. So here's the text on the screen, and the points that we've just decided are the important differences between the three answer options. I want you to find the answer, again, put it in chat, and as far as you can, explain why that answer is correct. Which of the answers is correct? Got quite a few A's and B's coming through. Yeah, lots of B's, lots of A's, about 50-50, which really matches what I've put up as a percentage on the screen. Only 36% of those students submitting in advance got this correct. So I'm not going to tell you just yet which one is the correct answer. We're going to go through the three options in order and discuss why or why not they are correct. So first of all, let's have a look at A, which is clarity of aftercare instructions. Now, some of you might have thought A was the correct answer because it mentions advice on discharge is provided and will ensure effective handover, both verbal and written. So this is true. Registered nurses will be responsible providing information to patients. But remember the keywords we've got on the screen. Is there anything in those statements about clarity or specifically instructions? No, there isn't. So A is not the correct answer. Let's now look at B, which is liaise with health professionals. Now, those of you who think the answer is B might have mentioned that the registered nurse will act as a point of contact and conduit for effective communication for all members of the multidisciplinary team. There's certainly a bit more difficult vocabulary in this answer option and this part of the text. And some of you might have found the word liaise particularly difficult. Now, liaise means to be the link between two or more people. And this might be something that you're unfamiliar with as a verb, but it's actually a very common healthcare verb that's used in the healthcare workplace as a frequent action for staff to get the best outcome for the patient. Conduit might be another word you don't know, but in this case, you can understand enough of the surrounding words to know it means to facilitate communication. This sentence that I've shown you on the screen is a good match for B. Act as a point of contact is a good match for the word liaise with other health professionals, is a good match for members of the multidisciplinary team. But let's also have a look at C. There's nothing in the text really that links to patient data, perhaps the handover of patient assessment and ongoing needs, but this isn't a close enough match to C. So from what we've looked at, B is the correct answer. And if you got that right, I think you should feel proud, because I mentioned of those students that submitted their answers in advance, only 36% of them got that one correct. For those of you who got it wrong, I'd like you to put the word yes into chat if the reason you got it wrong was because you were not confident with the meaning of the word liaise. So if liaise was something that caused you difficulty, put yes in the chat now. Don't be shy. I'm interested in hearing what was causing the problems for students with this question. Great. So yeah, I'm seeing some honest responses coming through that liaise did cause a few problems for some of you with answering that question correctly. So it's understandable. There will be words that you're unfamiliar with, but it is a good demonstration of the need to keep working to broaden your vocabulary. And I'll talk more about how you can do that specifically in Friday's session. We'll focus quite a bit on vocabulary on Friday. All right, let's move on to question 4. Question 4 caused very few problems, happily. The question this notice provides information about is clear, and the title of the text tells us that the topic is nasogastric tubes. If we look at the 3 options, we can isolate potential dangers to patients in option A. We can isolate precautions to be followed in option B, and correct technique in option C. And here's the text on the screen. Only one candidate submitting answers in advance got this question incorrect. So I'm going to tell you that the answer is B. And now I want you to tell me in chat which words you think prove that B is the correct answer. Which words in this text tell you that the notice is providing information about precautions to be followed during the procedure? Where can you find this answer in the text? Where is the evidence? Okay, Rinchen is suggesting the last line, Chaitana, also the second paragraph, last lines. Gita, supporting line is last paragraph. Ramakant mentions face mask, gloves, eye protection, and so does JD. Fantastic. That is exactly the words that I wanted you to pick out. So gloves must be worn, face and eye protection, as well as a gown. This is evidence for precautions. Gloves, face, eye protection, gown. These are all types of precaution somebody should take when inserting a nasogastric tube. So well done. Okay, we've got 2 more questions to answer. Here is question 5. In this policy extract, what point is being made about clinical guidelines? And the text title is Clinical Guidelines. So again, we know that the whole text is going to be on this topic. So looking at the answer options before reading will help you to then look at the text with efficiency and purpose. So here are the 3 options on the screen now. I want you to tell me in chat which of those words from each answer option would you isolate as being important to show the difference between those three answer options. Which are the words to isolate from those three answer options? Let me know in chat which words you would be focusing on before reading the text. All right, Shanmuga is suggesting for A, content approved. Magdalene approved all staff. That's great. For B, we've got set of recommendations. Yeah, Anati is suggesting A, approved, B, recommendation. Ashwini is suggesting for C, ignoring. Very good. So I think you're getting the idea of how you isolate those options. So from A, I'd be isolating approved, all relevant staff. From B, the word recommendations. And from C, ignoring and disciplinary action. I don't think I saw that coming through in the chat, but that's quite an important part of option C, that the result would be disciplinary action. All right, so now here is the text on the screen. Keeping those points in mind, have a look through the text, and if you can find the answer, or if you've already tried this question, put your answer into the chat and tell me the reason why you chose the answer. Do you think it's A, B, or C? Okay, we've got quite a few B's coming through, also a C. Mostly B's though at the moment. That's great. Yes. So 66% of candidates who submitted in advance got this correct, and it looks like most of you did too. So the correct answer is B, and the evidence is in the middle of the paragraph. It's important to recognize that clinical guidelines are not mandatory. So this is demonstrating that it's a recommendation. If they were mandatory, that would make it a regulation, but they are not mandatory. So it is a recommendation. Of those who got this question wrong by submitting answers in advance, there were almost equal numbers choosing A and C. The text mentions that ensure clinical guidelines are developed and agreed, keeping all staff involved and informed. But agreed is not the same as the word which we isolated in A, which was approved. And likewise, the text said where guidelines are not followed, which is a good match for ignored, but nothing is said in the text to match for no reason or about that disciplinary action. So both A and C are wrong. And I wonder how many of those 44% who chose the wrong answer, A or C, did so because they noticed that the previous two questions were B, and they were distracted by thinking the same letter couldn't be right 3 times in a row. If this was you, if you thought, well, it can't be B, the other two answers before it were B, don't fall for such mind games, okay? All right, lastly, question 6. The protocol instructs maternity staff administering Ferinject 2. Now, this question might read a little bit clearer for starting with a WH question word, such as what should maternity staff administering Ferinject do? Might just feel a little bit clearer for you when looking at the text. And let's look at the 3 answer options and the words that we can isolate to make sure that we are focusing on the right things when scanning the text. So in A, I would suggest the keywords are temporarily discontinue iron tablets. In B, I would suggest avoid giving breastfeeding women. And C, alert for negative reactions. All right, here's the text on the screen. Keeping those points in your mind, or if you've already answered this question, put the answer into the chat, and again, tell me why you think you have got the correct answer option. Where does it tell you in the text that your answer option is correct? Where is the evidence? Okay, so we've got A's and C's coming through as the answer option. If you think it's A, why do you think it's A? If you think it's C, why do you think it's C? All right, so Pamela's suggesting oral iron should be avoided, and Prilla is suggesting the same thing as evidence for why option A is correct. And yeah, I absolutely agree with you. So A is the correct answer. And the evidence for that is that oral iron should be avoided for 5 days after the administration of Ferinject. So 5 days is temporarily discontinue. Option B is quite clearly wrong, and candidates who submitted in advance weren't selecting option B. We can see in the second paragraph that it shows that it's fine to give to breastfeeding mothers. But option C was the answer that those who got this question wrong picked, but it isn't specifically covered in the text. It should be administered with caution in paragraph 1, and it does not require any monitoring in paragraph 2, is not the same as being alert for any negative reactions. So C was not the correct answer. So how did you do? Now you know the answers to those 6 questions, and you can see all of those 6 answers on the screen again now. How many of them did you get correct out of 6? All right, I can see Binu and Sruti are suggesting they got 5. Punith and Anna are saying 6 out of 6, so well done to you. 4 out of 6 for Feruza and May. So yeah, 4s, 5s, and 6s. Now, compared to the average of the candidates submitting in advance, they were getting 4.4 questions correct. Now, obviously, you can only get whole numbers of questions correct, but most candidates were getting just over 4 questions correct on average. From those that submitted in advance. So there is still some room for improvement. And those of you who got less than 6 correct, there are some strategies that I'm going to suggest that you can work on to try to improve your score. If you always use the same strategy, but you're not getting 100% correct, have a think about trying one of these strategies to see if they work for you. So the first one that I mentioned during today's session was to try rewording the question. Start with a who, what, or why, so it's explicitly clear what you are looking for in the text. When reading the answer options before the text, isolate the keywords that make each one different from the other, so you are scanning the text with these ideas in your mind. If in doubt about your answer option, look for evidence of why the other answers are wrong, and this is called the elimination strategy. It may be that that option isn't mentioned at all, but the correct answer will clearly match the whole option. So not just part of it, it should clearly match the whole option. So make sure you're looking for evidence. The verbs used in reading Part B options are perhaps more formal than ones you are familiar with. And as mentioned on Monday, broadening your vocabulary is going to be important. And I will be talking about how you can do that on Friday in more detail. Make a note of new vocabulary, and in the case of verbs like liaise, link the formal version to the informal version you might be more familiar with. So, for example, with liaise, you could link it to the more informal verb connect as a way of helping remind you of its meaning. You can also go back through other sample reading Part B tests you've done before and look at whether verbs used in the answer options, the unfamiliarity with those verbs, were responsible for other mistakes that you've made. And lastly, don't be distracted by traps, such as a run of answers that all have the same option as the correct answer. This isn't how assessment works. All the questions are written independently and then combined into the final test. So the answer to a previous question has no bearing on the next one. And if you'd like some more tips and strategies, we're adding our new complete guide to reading Part B into the chat now. This is well worth downloading or bookmarking. It contains lots of useful advice about reading Part B. Now that's the end of today's session on reading Part B, which means it's time for today's prize giveaway. Our friends at Cambridge University Press and Assessment have offered us 2 copies of their brand new OET trainer books to give away. We gave away 2 yesterday, and we have 2 more to give away today, and the final 2 to give away in tomorrow's session. And the OET trainer contains 6 complete sample tests, including step-by-step training, hints and tips for test-taking techniques, downloadable answer keys with explanations of why the answers are right or wrong, audios, and further exercises. And the winners will be able to choose to receive either the nursing or the medicine version and receive it in the mail from us. The books retail at Australian dollars 56, so this is a great prize. The only small print that I have to mention is we're only able to post books to unrestricted countries for shipping. So if one of our winners ends up being in a restricted shipping country, we will offer a prize of equal value. So how do you get involved in today's quiz? To enter, go to the link that we're posting into the chat now, and then type in your name, and we'll just wait for a minute or 2 while people are joining. Once we get to the end, if you are one of our winners, so if you are number 1 or 2, make sure you take a screenshot of your position on your device. You'll need to email this to us at an address that I give you later. So use the link that has just gone into the chat now, and then start joining the Kahoot. And I can see we've already got a good number joining, over 50 joining already, which is great. So there's still time for you to join. I'll give another minute of joining, and then we will get started on today's quiz. All of the questions are about reading Part B, and most of them are fairly straightforward. So I hope you're all feeling ready for the quiz. All right, just a few more seconds and we will get started. Okay, I'm going to push the start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. Good luck. Okay, so our first question: which of these is not a text type used in reading Part B? Memo, email, policy, or case study? Choose the option that you see on the screen, which is not a text type used in reading Part B. 5 seconds. Correct. 98 of you got that correct. It is a case study, is not part of a reading Part B. And let's see who was first in the leaderboard at the moment. Congratulations to AB. You were fastest to get that question correct. All right, let's do question 2. What is the maximum recommended time for spending on Part B questions in total? 2 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes? In total. So for all of those 6 questions together, what is the total time you should spend on reading Part B? 4 seconds. Correct. Well done. 99 of you got that correct. 10 minutes is the recommended time. Let's see what that's done to the leaderboards. Shh is now top of the leaderboard. Well done to you. All right. Question 3. Which of these was a topic in one of the 6 texts we looked at in the session? Cellulitis, electric breast pumps, planning for the future, or open patient records? This one's a little bit more tricky. You've got just under 10 seconds to choose. Which of those was a text that we looked at in reading part B tonight? Few less correct answers this time, but still 78% of you were correct in selecting electric breast pumps. So what's happened to the leaderboard now? Is holding on to top spots. So well done to you. Ashwini is climbing. We've got 2 more questions to go. So there's still chances to get onto the leaderboard. Question 4 is worth double points. What was the name of the iron injection mentioned in text 6, the one we've just looked at? Was it Ferinject, Ferrograd, iron jab, or Ferraheme? 10 seconds to choose the name of the iron injection we just looked at in text 6. And the correct answer, great job, 128 chose Ferinject. All right, how is the leaderboard looking now? So Shush is still there on number 1. Claire is at number 2. Final question, last chance. We're looking for the top 2 students at the end of this question. Question 5. What is the name of strategy of choosing the correct answer by finding evidence for the other 2 options are wrong? Is it multiple choice, matching, best guess, or elimination? What's the strategy of choosing the correct answer by finding evidence for why the other 2 options are wrong? Remember, if you are one of the winners, you need to be ready to take a screenshot when the winners are announced. So elimination was the correct answer. Most of you got that correct. Let's see who are the winners. So sadly, nothing for number 3, but well done for Ashwini for being 3rd. Number 2 was Claire, and number 1 was Shush. So Claire and Shush, please take a screenshot now of that, ready to send to us in a second. I'm going to come back to this screen and I'll pop on the screen now. Let's just, move that forward one. This is the address that you need to send your screenshot to if you were Claire or Shush. Please send that to OET Education and we will get in contact with you to arrange your prize. Congratulations. And remember, if you weren't the winner today, you still have another option tomorrow to win one of those prizes. All right, so just to finish off, let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be looking at reading part C. And if you haven't had a go at the test already that we're looking at, we're putting the link into the chat now. So you could have a go before the next session. And then you'll be able to check your answers with us live tomorrow. Oops, sorry. Let's go back to that slide. So yes, download the link that is in the chat now and have a go at reading part C. We will go through those strategies and answers for reading part C tomorrow. Don't forget also the challenges that I set you on Monday to set yourself some reading goals using a free reading tracker app and to answer 10 questions about your current reading habits. I'll be checking with you on Friday how you've been going with your goals, and there's still time to get involved with that by watching the recording of Monday's session using the links provided in the chat from that session. Remember, you can find those recordings from @official_OET YouTube and Facebook. But thank you so much for joining me for today's session. It was great seeing all your enthusiasm for reading part B, and I'll see some of you hopefully tomorrow for reading part C. Thanks. Bye for now.